On this Saturday night, Venezuela's race against the clock. The window to find survivors of this week's double earthquake is closing.
People are asking, do you have hammers? Do you have gloves? Do you have helmets?
Why foreign aid is facing challenges, bracing at the border.
The state is no longer a safe country for millions of people.
Why a wave of asylum seekers may be heading for Canada after a U.S. court ruling. StubHub under investigation after World Cup complaints against the ticket reseller. Plus, he's number one.
People were coming up to me and asking for photos.
How the NHL's first-round draft pick is already making hockey history.
Global National. Reporting tonight, Jeff Semple.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. Time is running out to rescue survivors after those two huge earthquakes in Venezuela on Wednesday. The first 72 hours are considered critical. After that, the chances of finding people alive drop sharply without access to food or water. And the death toll is rising. More than 1,400 people are now confirmed dead. 3,200 others are injured and more than 50,000 are still unaccounted for. And the desperation is growing. Tensions flared over the government's slow response to the disaster. Venezuelans already faced a humanitarian crisis after years of mismanagement by its dictators. And late today, yet another earthquake was reported off Venezuela's northern coast, a smaller but still significant 4.8 magnitude quake. Our Nathaniel Dove reports on the frantic search and the Canadian response.
Trapped in a collapsed building for roughly a day, this footage shows the small pocket of air where a family survived. Their prayers to be found, and a joyous moment, the child is pulled from the wreckage. It's miraculous, the boy's father says. Across the country, people are desperate to get to the thousands missing, buried by two massive earthquakes. There may be people still alive, this Caracas resident says, but it seems like there isn't enough machinery to clear the rubble.
People are asking, do you have hammers? Do you have gloves? Do you have helmets? Do you have anything? So a lot of the rescue efforts have just been regular citizens wearing, motorcycle helmets and just digging with their hands.
Canadian Heather McKay lives in Venezuela. Any recovery is so much harder, she says, in a country already so poor.
Many people, especially in La Guaira, they already had next to nothing, and now they have even less.
Many survivors now in a struggle to keep surviving. Some Venezuelans turn to looting. These people are waiting for water.
We get them a kit like this, mom's going to be able to give her kids clean drinking water for the next year.
In a Toronto warehouse, the charity Global Medic is trying to help, building kits with water purifiers, soap, and solar-powered lights.
Our rescue partners that we've trained and equipped are there, trying to, help get people out of the rubble, but we know the needs are going to be immense and longer term.
Destroyed airports and roads will make delivering aid difficult. Here, a Spanish team extracts another lucky survivor. Rescue teams from around the world, including Canada, will keep trying to help for as long as they can. But days after the devastating earthquakes, time may be running out for anyone still trapped under the destroyed buildings. Rescue will change to recovery and then rebuilding, though the scars on the country and people will not soon go away. Nathaniel Dove, Global News, Toronto.
And turning to breaking news now, the U.S. military just launched multiple strikes on targets in Iran. U.S. Central Command says it's in response to Iranian attacks over the past couple of days on commercial ships transiting the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. military released this video of one of its earlier strikes targeting Tehran's missile and drone storage sites. Bahrain also reported being hit by an Iranian drone today. This flurry of tit-for-tat strikes risks upending the ceasefire agreement signed last week, which reopened the Strait of Hormuz to global oil shipments. Canadian border officials are bracing for an influx of asylum seekers arriving from the U.S. after a pivotal court ruling south of the border. On Thursday, the U.S. Supreme Court decided to allow the Trump administration to end legal protections for hundreds of thousands of migrants from Haiti and Syria. They now face the threat of deportation. As Elizabeth Zogalis reports, advocates say some asylum seekers are now looking north.
After a U.S. Supreme Court 6-3 decision on Thursday, the lives of an estimated 350,000 Haitian immigrants now hang in limbo.
I have lots of my close family members that are TPS holders, and they're depending on this because they have kids to feed, and they've been in the U.S. for a long time.
White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller called the ruling a victory 10 years in the making, saying it will allow the government to remove Haitian migrants who have remained in the United States under TPS.
If you no longer have status in this country, then you're supposed to be deported.
Temporary protected status was created in the early 1990s. The Trump administration has long argued that TPS has been misused by successive administrations. In Montreal, where there is a large Haitian community, advocates aren't surprised with the Supreme Court decision.
We saw it coming. And already people that didn't trust Mr. Trump, even though it was appealed, were coming to Canada. And we saw it from 2024 on.
France Andre, spokesperson for the Action Committee for People Without Status, says he's already aware of several Haitians heading north to Canada.
I've had calls prior to the decision of the Supreme Court, but since then, every day, I'm getting calls.
The new arrivals will be eligible to submit asylum claims if they have close family members in the country through the Safe Country Agreement. However, most asylum seekers must apply for refugee status in the first of the two countries they enter, preventing most people who are already in the U.S. from making a claim in Canada.
It should be voided because the States is no longer a safe country for millions of people.
France fears desperate Haitians will continue to try to reach Canada despite their low chances of success, saying many feel returning to Haiti would be even more dangerous. Elizabeth Zogalis, Global News, Montreal.
A small community in northern Manitoba is in crisis. Extra RCMP officers have now been deployed to Leaf Rapids after a week-long violent crime spree that saw a man killed, shots fired, and a suspected arson. Residents there describe lawless chaos and say their community was already suffering from food shortages and a lack of clean drinking water. Melissa Ridgen reports on their urgent plea for help.
For a town of just a couple hundred people, Leaf Rapids shouldn't need 3 specialty police units to assist local officers. But RCMP Major Crimes, a K-9 unit, and the North District Crime Reduction Enforcement Team have been sent in after a week of what resident Leanna Anderson calls chaos.
On Tuesday night last week, there was a man that was brutally beaten. He was beaten in front of the school on the school basketball court. And he passed away. The same evening, there was another lady who was beaten as well, who has life-changing injuries. And then on Wednesday night, there was a man that was shot and stabbed. And then on Thursday night, there was 3 different residences in the community that were shot at. And there was a house that was burnt to the ground. It's a crisis here. There's a lot of uncertainty in the community. A lot of people are scared.
In addition to the violence, the community, a 10-hour drive north of Winnipeg, is losing its only grocery store. The shelves increasingly bare.
We've been on a boil water advisory since August 2013. We're the longest standing municipality in the province of Manitoba that has had a boil advisory this long. If the co-op closes, that's the only place where people can get drinking water.
The community was taken over by the Manitoba government in 2019 when town council folded, unable to make quorum.
The town's slowly dying. You know, the town was designed just to be here for the mine, the Ridgen mine in the early 70s, and there was no plans for after it shut down.
The downward spiral began after the copper and zinc mine closed in 2002.
You've got people struggling to survive, barely surviving. You've got the bootleggers and drug dealers flourishing.
With no local government to declare a state of emergency, residents have written federal and provincial politicians begging for help. Anderson says they've not heard back. In an email to Global News, the province says $600,000 is earmarked to improve the water system, firefighting capabilities, and roads in Leaf Rapids this year. Residents say the response is tone deaf.
It's a free-for-all here. I can't believe that this is happening in a municipality in the province of Manitoba.
Anderson and others worry the situation will get worse before governments act. Melissa Ridgen, Global News, Winnipeg.
Well, for the first time in NHL history, a hockey player from Yukon, Canada's westernmost and smallest territory, has been drafted first overall. Gavin McKenna was selected last night by the Toronto Maple Leafs. McKenna is also the second Indigenous Canadian to be drafted first overall. He's from the Trondak-Huetchen First Nation. That community held a draft viewing party last night. The Leafs' new GM even traveled to Whitehorse to see where he grew up.
What I saw was someone that loves his community and someone whose community loves him, and I think that's a big part of who he is.
Toronto is a city. It's an amazing place. You know, they love their sports. They love their hockey team. They've got so many passionate fans, so I'm excited.
Soccer fans are fuming, accusing StubHub of failing to deliver World Cup tickets they'd paid for. The situation is so bad that provincial regulators in BC have now launched an official investigation into the reseller. Customers claim their tickets were canceled hours before the match, and some say they never received a refund. StubHub is blaming FIFA's ticketing platform for issues in getting tickets to buyers. BC's Attorney General also released a statement demanding accountability. And Prime Minister Mark Carney spoke with his South African counterpart ahead of tomorrow's must-win World Cup match. And before that call, South Africa's president posted on social media, striking a confident tone.
They will dazzle the Canadians and they will defeat them.
We'll see about that. This is the first time either nation has ever reached the tournament's knockout round. The Canadians practiced in Los Angeles today, and star Alphonso Davies was seen stretching and exercising away from the rest of the club. The team's captain has yet to play in this World Cup following an injury, though Canada's coach says Davies will play tomorrow. No relief for renters. Coming up, the government's new housing bill faces criticism for ignoring tenants, why some MPs might have a built-in bias. The federal government's signature housing bill became law last week. It creates a new crown corporation tasked with making housing more affordable. But the legislation is also facing criticism from renters who say their demands were ignored. David Aiken reports on concerns that Canadian MPs have a pro-landlord bias.
I, Lena Metlish-Diab.
The immigration minister owns 14 rental units in Halifax.
What you need is scale today.
The finance minister has a couple of rental properties in London, England.
We've had to become more efficient.
And the Secretary of State for International Development has 6 rental units in Burnaby and Surrey, BC. Prime Minister Mark Carney's cabinet, in fact, is full of landlords. 38% of cabinet ministers report rental income or investment properties in their public disclosures filed with the Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner. And there are even more landlords in the House of Commons, where at least 103 MPs or their spouses have listed rental properties among their assets.
I do find that those statistics are very helpful in calling attention to the power and politics of housing.
Housing advocates say those numbers are evidence of a bias in Canada's national legislature.
It shows that there is a bit of an institutional bias to keep the housing system working exactly as it is right now, because it is the most profitable business in Canada. Unfortunately, for the rest of us, the tenants, the people who are trying to access homeownership, and most acutely for those living in homelessness or housing precarity.
During parliamentary committee hearings on the government's signature housing bill, C-20, several advocates argued for changes that would help renters and tenants, things like a tenant's bill of rights, vacancy controls, and the right to security of tenure.
Rental assistance must be a core pillar of national housing policy.
Not a single requested change was made.
It's hugely disappointing, of course.
There are no renters in Carney's cabinet. Every single one of them is a homeowner. And yet, about 1/3 of all Canadians live in households where they are tenants, paying the rent every month to a landlord.
Politicians themselves are homeowners or landlords, and the interests of the tenants are not represented directly.
The Trudeau government did introduce a tenants' bill of rights in Budget 2024, but could not get provinces to agree to it, and so it died. Now, sources tell Global News that Housing Minister Gregor Robertson is working on its successor to be unveiled perhaps this fall. Jeff.
David Aiken in Ottawa. Thank you, David. Still ahead, temperature records are melting across Europe as a historic heat wave moves east. Police in Berlin using a water cannon to try to keep people cool as Europe's deadly heat wave moves east. Temperature records have been falling fast across Western and Central Europe. Germany saw its hottest temperature on record for the second straight day, with the mercury there climbing above 40 degrees Celsius. The Czech Republic and Denmark also hit all-time highs, while Switzerland saw its hottest June temperature. In Budapest, tens of thousands braved the heat to march in the city's Pride Parade, the first since the ousting of longtime leader Viktor Orban. The prime minister, who lost the spring election, had introduced a number of policies targeting LGBTQ2+ rights, including banning events such as Pride. Here at home, a wildfire has prompted an evacuation order for the town of Lynn Lake in northwest Manitoba. The mandatory evacuation order affects roughly 600 people who live in Lynn Lake. The town says a rapidly advancing wildfire poses an imminent threat and could reach that community by tomorrow. In Newfoundland and Labrador, many families are still recovering from last year's wildfire season. Some have started to rebuild, while others are still struggling to find new homes. Heidi Petracek has their story.
Last October, Robin Dwyer and her family were living in a rental after their home was leveled by wildfire.
We were looking at rebuilding on the North Shore. However, with costs, with, lots of delays in terms of finding a contractor, we then decided that we would purchase a home in Carbonear.
In April, they made an offer on a new place, but Dwyer says the town of Carbonear won't provide paperwork needed for the sale because the 1992 build is too close to a property line. They're supposed to move out of their rental Canada Day.
6 inches between us right now and homelessness, which I never thought I'd see that twice in 1 year, but...
It's just one example of the obstacles that arise after a wildfire's destruction.
And our understanding of recovery processes, these things take time, and it can be up to 10 years.
The deputy mayor of one of the towns affected says the community is slowly rebuilding. New homes are under construction. The municipality must deal with thousands of burned trees and has to repair its water system.
The other thing is that, we lost 45 homes, right? That's about 15% of our tax base, right?
We had approximately 330 claims as a result of the Kingston wildfire in Conception Bay North. And as of today, we have 74% of those closed.
2025 was the second worst wildfire season in Canadian history and forced more than 85,000 people from their homes.
Planning a rebuild can be very overwhelming, so it's really supporting them through that and guiding them step by step so they know what to expect.
The big thing is, we just want to move on.
Back in Carbonear, Robin Dwyer is trying to get help from government so she can secure her new home, one of the thousands still dealing with a past wildfire season, with this year's well underway. Heidi Petracek, Global News, Halifax.
Prime Minister in exile. Up next, the extraordinary double life of an Edmonton bus driver. An Edmonton man is living an extraordinary double life. By day, he's a school bus driver, but in his free time, he's also the democratically elected prime minister of a government in exile, serving a population under oppression. Heather Yerkes-West explains.
He's a familiar face behind the wheel of his Edmonton school bus, but few of his passengers know the sadness behind these smiling eyes.
2 of my children were killed, passed away. The oldest daughter was injured.
Abdullah Noor is a genocide survivor, a Uyghur Muslim. Noor fled to Canada more than 20 years ago. And though he worked tirelessly to bring his family to safety too, before he was able to rescue his children, 2 were killed. The whereabouts of his oldest daughter, currently unknown.
We don't know right now they are alive or dead. we don't know it.
There's been several phases after the new Chinese Communist Party leader Xi Jinping came to power in 2012. He started to plan for a crackdown on ethnic identities as such.
By 2017, hundreds of thousands of Uyghur Muslims were swept up in mass arrests, brought to concentration camps where human rights watchers believe they are subjected to forced labor. There have also been allegations of organ harvesting.
At the end, we are dying. Everybody is dying. So we have to do our job for freedom, for self-determination.
This is where Noor's other life comes into play. For the last 3 years, this bus driver has also served as East Turkestan's democratically elected prime minister, working with a full government in exile for the Uyghur people.
Anytime I am free, I am working for my country and for my people.
East Turkestan is not a country formally recognized by any foreign government, though Canada became the second country to formally recognize that China's treatment of the Uyghur Muslims constituted a genocide in 2021.
How important was it that Canada's parliament recognized the genocide of the Uyghur people?
It was very important for us because it's a humanity problem.
But Noor says he is deeply concerned about that when it comes to China, Canada is now deepening its diplomatic and economic ties. Heather Yurex, West Global News, Edmonton.
And that is Global National for this Saturday night. I'm Jeff Semple. This is Pride Month, and so tonight's Your Canada is the Dyke March in Toronto, celebrating the lesbian community. This weekend's festivities culminate in Sunday's LGBTQ2+ parade, the second largest celebration of its kind in the world. Thanks for watching. Have a great night.